Welcome to Spread Love in Organizations, the healthcare leadership podcast where we explore leadership with purpose. I'm Naji, your host for this special episode in partnership with Boston Biotechnology Summit, a bridge to collaboration and innovative synergies between healthcare stakeholders. I'm joined today by Benjamin Hadida, co-founder of Exeliom Biosciences, a clinical stage biotech company founded in 2016 in France, winner of the Biotech Summit pitch this year. With experience spanning investment banking, venture capital, regulatory affairs, biotech operations, and applied research, Benjamin brings a multidisciplinary perspective to biotech innovation. He holds master's degrees in management from ISEC Business School and molecular and cellular biology from Sorbonne. Under his leadership, Exeliom has raised $29 million to develop EXL01, a groundbreaking microbiome-based immunomodulator targeting the innate immune system. The first-in-class therapy is now in phase 2 trials for immuno-oncology, inflammatory bowel diseases, and infectious diseases. Benjamin, it is great to have you with me on the show, and congrats again for winning the prize.
Thank you very much, Naji. Glad to be here as well.
I'd love first to hear more about your personal story before we go into the biotech world. What brought you to found and lead now Exeliom?
Really, it was the willingness to create my dream job. And I was not able to find it. There's a lot of biotech activities in France, but not so many biotech companies developing actual novel drugs. And the number of options were very limited, but the science is excellent with all these academic institutions creating a lot of new opportunities there. So the idea was just, okay, let's meet an excellent scientific team and create the dream job.
Oh, I love that. And kind of like, how did you land into knowing that healthcare, biotech, is kind of your dream and what you want to do in your life?
So yeah, it's a good question because at the start, I had a very generalist background. I did the preparatory schools in France and then went to ESSEC Business School where I was mostly studying corporate finance. But then, I was trying to find an area where I could apply this knowledge. And I was immediately, attracted by the healthcare because there was something more to it. We were talking about life and death, about ethical issues, and I had this opportunity to discover the field through an innovation therapeutic share at ESSEC Business School. And then I went to Amgen, and definitely I fell in love with the complexity of this field.
So from generalistic to you've worked in pharma, you've worked in venture capital, and now really building the company since it's been 9 years now. You're on your
9 years
anniversary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us more about this journey and how it started. And I'm sure it's a roller coaster of a journey as any biotech.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your key learning as you've been building this venture?
Yeah. To be honest, it's better not to know everything before you start, especially as you're developing a first-in-class modality. It's already a first-in-class, but it's also a novel modality. So there were so many question marks. And to be honest, I tried to present it to the people I met. So first of all, my co-founders, but also my first investors. I tried to convince them that because, it would be the first time for me that I would do these things. I would do better than anyone else because I would give it everything, but while keeping the openness, because my starting point was I don't know anything. So I would go talk to as many people who were supposed to know, and then practice my best judgment to make the next decision. And little by little, we start building this project and the organization around it. But really, it was tailor-made. We were not applying any recipe. And, very early on, we decided not to have any C-level in the company, for instance, because we would not have the resources. We didn't know exactly where we would go with this project. There was no regulatory roadmap. There was nothing written for us. So first decision was to be completely virtual, no C-level. The experienced people would be outside of the company. They will also evolve with the project. And within the company, we would have only super project managers, basically, with no particular experience in drug development, but the willingness to learn. And this is how we started. And I guess this is the reason why we're able to do what we did. We basically took an academic program with a few slides, some great publications, but in terms of project, just a few slides. And we took it to a candidate that is now in phase 2. That has been seen by many agencies, including the FDA. And yeah, it was really because we were the first one to do what we did, and it was the first time as well for us. It was some kind of a combination of both that made it a success, I guess.
This is an incredible story. And now, congrats, you're in phase 2. You're pretty advanced. You have enough runway. You managed to raise 29 million through the years in Europe, which is not something simple, I would say.
No.
What is kind of your biggest learning? If you have to pick one, what is the biggest learning for others who are now starting their companies and going into from pre-clin IND or those early stages to becoming clinical stage companies?
Yeah, the biggest learning is always ask the question, and that's a question that you should ask almost every day. It's what does the program need? And not what do you need or what does your company need, but what does the program need? Because at the end of the day, when you look at the valuation even of the company, you're not going to value the people or the many preclinical programs that you have, especially in this economy. The only thing that are valued are the clinical stage assets. So our key question was what our lead program needs to be in the clinic as fast as possible in a valuable way. And to kind of identify what has value and what doesn't have value. And it's complicated because when you are in love with your science, with your innovation, you see value in a lot of things, even in your manufacturing unit, because you think it's unique and you need know-how and so on. But before I started this company, I had this experience in another biotech company where I was not the co-founder, I was just a simple employee. And I could see what happens when a biotech falls. And at the end of the day, what the investor and the financial people will look at, and the way they put numbers on things, and this is very rude and crude, and there are not that many things at the end of the day that have value for these guys. So to keep your eyes on what drives value and be focused on that. Seems easy and obvious, but that's not.
Yeah, I agree. It's not. And it's, I think, related to that, there are many aspects, right? Like when you're focusing on what the program needs to bring this innovation and help patients, you need to create a culture within the teams and the leaders you bring on and you work with to be able to transcend one's self-interest and egos and literally work on what's best for the asset you have to bring it to patients. So I think it's not an easy question, but if you manage to do it, it talks a lot, I think, on how the culture you created.
And one of the key aspects for that was, I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive, but in the way we built the company, the scientific co-founders, they were extremely involved, but they were not employees of the companies. So they were active consultant or board members, but they were outside of the company. And our deal from the beginning was that my job would be at some point to tell them things that they won't like, because I would defend the program. And at some point, the program interest might deviate from their scientific vision or interest. And this is something that is not easy as well. Initially, we were funded with a major focus in IBD. This is where our co-founders came from. And at some point, we made this prioritization to go to oncology. And, it was massively accepted and with the support of the co-founders, because we set the rules right from the start, and they all understood that it was what was best for the program. So at some point, it's exactly what you say. You isolate the program, and the program has its own interest, vision, and roadmap.
And that's a great example. As building companies, I've had this experience even with startups. As you start an idea, kudos to you having those tough conversations in the beginning. Usually we try to say, we'll start, who knows what it goes. And then, you have tougher conversations later, but it's not the ideal case. By learning is also having those tough conversations in the beginning is crucial for the success of the company, and you're showing it here. Tell me more now. We've mentioned it, but tell me briefly about the science. What do you do? What's novel in your approach? I've heard your pitch, obviously, so I'm a little bit biased. But tell me from your lens about your science.
Yeah, maybe I can tell about it the way it really started, and that's really interesting because it's a bit the opposite roadmap of the conventional drug development. Normally, you have a target identified that has some scientific rationale. You design something to hit that target, and you go for it, right? In our case, it all started with clinical observations. Just physicians trying to understand why some patients were responding to immunotherapy and why those were not responding. And one of our co-founders is one of the pioneers in trying to get this understanding by looking at the gut microbiome. Was one of the first to do that. And very early on, with not the tools that we have today, but the tools that we had 20 years ago, he identified a signal, which was a particular gut bacteria, and then took it to the lab and identify with our other co-founders that, in fact, this bacteria had a lot of specificities in terms of properties. Really, it's only 20 years later that we had the breakthrough where we understood the mechanism of action. Where it's while we're in phase 2 that we really were able to identify the target that we eat and the cells that we eat and so on with this bacteria. So in terms of modality, it looks simple. We only basically have this master cell bank with one strain, a specific strain that we selected from this gut bacteria species that is called Faecalibacterium prausnitzii. We grew it, we freeze dry it, put it in a capsule that is designed to release it in the lower part of the intestine. And then we use it really as an immunomodulator. And what we've identified is, in fact, this bacteria is carrying on its membrane a specific structure that binds to NOT2, which is an innate immune receptor that is particularly found in macrophages and monocytes, myeloid cells, basically, that are particularly present around the intestine. So this is really interesting in terms of delivery. And when the bacteria binds to NOT2, or this component binds to NOT2, it acts as a super agonist of NOT2 and activates NOT2 in a very specific way that then makes the whole system more able to respond to immunotherapy. So if you're in the IBD setting, that would be anti-TNF. If you're in oncology, that would be the immune checkpoint inhibitor. And what is very interesting is that NOT2, there's a lot of rationale in these different therapeutic areas because that's an immunomodulator that can take macrophages either to an anti-inflammatory phenotype or pro-inflammatory phenotype, and this is very context-driven. So at the beginning, we thought we were developing an anti-inflammatory drug based on this bacteria, because in the inflammatory setting, the effect that you drive is an anti-inflammatory effect. But in fact, this is not an anti-inflammatory drug. That's just an immunomodulator that activates macrophages so that they do what they're supposed to do in the context they are. So in the context of checkpoint inhibitors in oncology, the effect is completely the opposite, and you boost the macrophages so that they will help you respond better to immunotherapy. And so that's why now we've got phase 2 trials both in oncology and in Crohn's disease.
This is great. And so tell me more. I'm intrigued about, obviously I'm in immunology too. So there is this immunomodulation. You're talking based on the contact. So how do you see yourself as a company and as this drug develops? Is it an add-on?
Yeah.
It's an enhancer sometimes for whatever immunological treatment you would have?
That's exactly our vision for this product. You need to know your product and what it can and cannot do. And this is really an add-on positioning. It will enhance the response of checkpoint inhibitors. The objective is to have more patients responding to these treatments when you combine to it. So actually our flagship trial in gastric cancer, it's in first-line gastric cancer in combination with chemotherapy and nivolumab. And we have a control group where they only take chemotherapy and nivolumab. And yeah, the idea is really to have more patients responding with the presence of the bacteria. And in the context of in Crohn's disease, we are either in monotherapy for the patients that, where anti-TNF are too toxic for them, and there is a major need for these patients because there is just nothing that is given to them if the patient or the physician think that the anti-TNF is too toxic, or it can be as an add-on to anti-TNF. But definitely the vision is we see that as a boost. We helped the immune system to be in a better state for the patients to respond to these treatments. We do not really see it as a shock treatment or monotherapy. Doesn't make sense to us.
And this is awesome. You talked about like you kind of shaping the way. It's true. Like was a lot of ideas about microbiome. I'm really like it's great. You guys are in phase 2 and getting there. What is currently you see as your biggest challenge or barrier for you to get to the next stage of getting this to market?
It's if we're successful with our current trials, either in oncology or in IBD, the next step will require a partnership with a pharma. And our biggest challenge right now is to get the pharma on board, to educate the pharma regarding these microbiome-based therapies. There had been in the past a frenzy regarding microbiome with a number of companies raising a lot of money, and they did not execute well. And we just need to educate pharma to basically, they know that already, but based on positive data that we'll be generating, to explain that, there are a million ways to do something and we're doing right with this very controlled and defined candidate with an identified target and mechanism, with also the right application. Because, maybe the companies before us, they expected a bit too much from this type of modalities, and they did not position it well. And most of the time, they developed it as a monotherapy in inflammatory settings, and it was maybe too much to ask. We're really convinced that what you can expect from these therapies is a long-term effect. Their strength is their safety profile, not their potency. But their other strength is to activate the immune system in a non-suppressive way, in a different way, something that was not done before. And as we all know in the immuno setting, you need different angles, different strategy to combine to have the best effect. And we cannot ignore the microbiome components. The people I talk to in the pharma world, they know that they are very interested in the microbiome science. They just don't see yet a modality. They don't see yet the conversion into a product. Yeah. So this is what we need to bring to them, show them that in phase 2, we de-risk the regulatory, the manufacturing, now the efficacy, and this is not rocket science. I mean, it already exists. When you looked at the BCG vaccines on these type of things, we're not that far away. In fact, the people that evaluate our dossier at the FDA are the exact same people that evaluate vaccines, because this is the same type of manufacturing. It's just that you do not attenuate the strain, because the strain here is good for you, but the rest is very similar. So it's not that surprising in a way.
That's great, and really best of luck with that. And again, the opportunity you have is you will have data, as you said, and this is kind of
exactly
what we live and breathe for.
Summer 2026 and final readout in 27. So
awesome,
it's coming.
Awesome. I'm gonna now give you a word, and I would love your first reaction to it. The first word is leadership.
Mm-hmm. It's put yourself behind the others, not in front.
Love that. What about entrepreneurship?
Don't get any ideas. Just discover it your way. Don't try to have other people explain it what it is for you.
Microbiome.
It's for me. It's the other space. I mean, it's the other space discovery, and it's fascinating.
Spread love in organizations.
You cannot be successful without love.
Any final word of wisdom, Benjamin, for healthcare leaders around the world?
Yeah, just keep your mind open. Don't get stuck into to what the financial people ask you to do.
Well, thank you so much again for being with me today and this great chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Naji. It was nice talking to you.
Thanks for listening to the show. More episodes summarizing the Boston Biotech Summit are available on spreadloveio.com or on your preferred podcast app. Make sure to follow us. Let's inspire change together and make a positive impact in healthcare, one story at a time.